This podcast is sponsored by valleygivesback.org. Don't get spooked by planned giving. Name a Valley nonprofit in your estate plan and create a legacy that tells future generations what mattered to you. Making a gift that costs nothing during your lifetime is easy and revocable if things change. With a planned gift, you have the power to impact the Valley forever without affecting your current lifestyle. Your action will inspire others to make a difference in their own way. Remember the Valley. Ask your accountant, financial planner, or attorney about planned giving options. Plan now, give later, impact tomorrow. Learn more at valleygivesback.org.
For hundreds of years we've brought you the news. For the info we gave you the clues. Owners' profits were always sky high. Changing market now threatens our lives. Post-literation, critical reading, dumbed down nation, signs of inbreeding, TV sucking ideas from our head, public discourse just about dead. We'll ride the dinosaur. Yeah, ride the dinosaur.
Hey everybody, I am Eugene Driscoll. Welcome to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Valley Indy or on Facebook.com Valley Independent Sentinel. It is election season here in the Naugatuck Valley and beyond. And my guest for this podcast is Mr. Brian Coppolo, a Derby resident who is running as a Democrat for mayor of the city of Derby. Welcome to the podcast, Brian.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
I'm doing all right so far. Did I mess anything up? And I pronounced your name correctly, right?
It's all good. Yep, absolutely.
We'll see if I spell it wrong. I think I spelled your last name Coppola in one of the early articles I did, which was embarrassing. But anyway, that's my habit.
Get that a lot.
But I thought we would have you on here today to kind of get to know who you are. As this would be like the traditional newspaper profile that you always see of candidates. So like my agenda here is to get to know who you are and why you're running for mayor, and then hopefully talk about your specific platform if elected mayor.
Sure.
Of the city of Derby, where you grew up, I understand, right?
Yes. Yep. Born and raised here.
So yeah, where are you from? What'd your father do? How many generations of Derby are you?
Sure. Okay. Actually, I wasn't born here, but mostly raised here. Fourth generation, grew up in New Hampshire for a year or two and then came back down. But I was raised on all the great stories and all the great the photos and the legends of how Derby used to be. And that's kind of how I grew up. You know, that was the fun thing during the holidays is, sitting around and hearing about these grand stories about the bustling downtown and how things used to be. And for some reason, I just kind of was attracted to that and just picked it up and said, "Oh my God, we can have that again, right? I mean, that would be fantastic." And so, that kind of always resonated with me for a very long time. And so, I went to college. I did what I had to do, and I learned a lot about communications and business. And I just always felt gravitated back to the Valley. And I got a job at the Bridgeport Fire Department, and I'm very, very proud of that. We've been doing a lot of good work there, and very honored to be a part of that service.
What drew you to, because I know we had spoken previously when you first announced,
Sure.
Or it might have been a little bit before that, and you had said you were in like the restaurant business
Sure,
for a little bit, but your father, a longtime public servant in Derby, like your sort of lineage is in the fire department here in Derby, am I correct?
Right. So, my father started when he was 16 in the fire service at the Storms. It's a volunteer fire service. He has some great stories, and he really kind of came to understanding the community, understanding how important community work is. And I would hear his stories, and he talked with such pride. And growing up, I said, you know what, that's amazing. And I followed in his footsteps. When I was 16, I I joined as well, and so we have kind of been a family, second generation family of Derby firefighters.
And when you joined, what was it? The Storms?
Yeah.
Storm Ambulance and Rescue Corps?
That's right. Yep.
When you joined at 16, you're still in it though, right? You're
Yes.
Still,
Yeah.
still an active member. Were there any other, and I may have asked you this already in a previous interview, but were there any other members, junior members or 16-year-old members, I don't know what their official title is, who are still in it with you?
Right. Yeah. No, there's we were technically auxiliary.
Auxiliary, okay.
Right. Yeah. 18-year-olds are interior and above. There was it's a great group of guys.
Who are some of them? Like who's still there? Do you know?
Well,
still friends with any of them?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Brian Cooper, and the great thing too is that we had generations slightly above us, like the Leonards, that were just they were great to us, and the Antonazis, who were just who kind of taught us, and they taught us the pride and taught us the dedication, and that was something to be 16 years old and to be part of something bigger than yourself. I think that was it was an incredible experience, and I think, unfortunately, many people don't have the opportunity for that.
It's definitely a character building, I would assume.
Yeah.
So what made you went into sort of the rest of, you went to college for business and communications, you said, and then you were sort of not doing the fire service. What brought you back into the fold, I guess?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, it comes down to... it's weird. It's this desire to be something bigger than yourself. It comes down to being a part of something, and it comes down to having that opportunity, which was, this is an organization that has been around for hundreds of years, and you have an opportunity to protect a community. And I think that there was something always about me that resonated with that. And it was only until I came back into the fold and,
And in Bridgeport, describe to me, what's being a firefighter, not what it's like, but, are you based in a certain neighborhood in Bridgeport? What's your truck company, as I spout off like an idiot? It's like, what's your schedule, sort of? You there?
Yeah. So I'm on C shift, which is we all run 24 hours on, 72 off.
Okay.
So what that means is that I work a full 24, 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. And then we have 3 days off. But we're assigned to a single company, which is a single apparatus, whether it be an engine or a ladder. I'm assigned to an engine and the fireboat in town. So we go in, but you never know what you're going to come across. It's every day is totally different, and that's what's exciting and adventurous.
And there are, I didn't mean to interrupt. Are there a lot of other Valley men and women in the Bridgeport Fire Department?
There are a couple. Yeah, there's a few people. I don't know if I should mention names. They're good friends of mine, and they're great people. But it's funny that the Storms and Fire and Ambulance Corps, we have a lot of people in different departments around the region, so it kind of instills that sense. Yeah, it instills that sense of civic service.
And how old are you, Brian?
I'm 33.
You're 33.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now you're running for mayor.
Right.
You're making a bit of a leap. I had asked you previously. Well, I would think the one knock that people could say right away, well, hey, this guy doesn't have any municipal experience. He's got to be on the tax board. How can we trust him to just jump in and run our city? Right. So what's the motivation to run for mayor? And then how do you respond to probably the lowest hanging fruit that somebody could say, well, you're not experienced.
Right. Well, I think the funny thing is that maybe not funny, but the reality is that I have seen that there is an opportunity for development, and I can understand that there is a point where everyone has to come to a point in their lives where they say, is there something I can do to make things better? And I was sitting down actually at the firehouse, and this opportunity was afforded to me. And I said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of just talking about ideas of change. If this is the catalyst and this is the opportunity for me to actually do that, let me do it.
And then how does one, because I've never run for mayor, I've never run for anything, how does one sort of put your name into the ring and convince the Democratic Party in Derby that you're going to be their candidate? Because from what I've heard, I mean, the party, I mean, just 2 years ago, it seems like 100 years ago at this point, but they were bitterly split. There was a primary, the Democratic Party was fractured, I guess,
right.
From what I observed. But now I've heard they've coalesced around you. So how does one do that?
Well, I think the reality is that, not to use the old adage, it's darkest before the dawn, but I think that we are in such dire straits that I think that the party has been unified because people are in a point of dire straits and they need to get out of this financial crisis that is increasing taxes. And we don't really have any amenities to show for it or development to show for it. So, I think the party came together and said, okay, you know what, we need a change. And I was very interested, as I said before, and started attending town committee meetings. And, I had some ideas and I talked to some people and I vetted my ideas off of them. And it was kind of a spring well. And I said, you know what, this is possible. This is tangible. Change is tangible. And I just decided to go for it.
And then in terms of your campaign, who's helping you out? Like, who's your campaign manager? And then who's sort of advising you on where to go to knock on doors and what events you show up to and all that magic stuff that candidates do when they're running for local office? Yeah,
this has definitely been a learning experience for me. I have come into this and had some good people with the town committee and current aldermen and tax board people on both sides who are just ready for change to kind of help and brief me. My father is actually my campaign director, and he's been helping me out a lot. He's a good businessman. I mean, through and through. That's what he's been doing for years as a director. But it really comes down to the fact that I think I'm coming from this as a point of a resident, right? So it's not necessarily that I know the inside politics of everything, or I'm in the weeds, if you will, of how things are actually run. I think that maybe people thought that my ideas were refreshing or new, or just my ambition was unique. I'm not sure. I don't want to, toot my own horn too much by any means, but I think that I just came in with honest ideas of seeing what it would look like from the other side of the door, right? So when we door knock, what would I want to hear? What would I want to see? What would a candidate want to do to create change that I would be inspired by? And that's kind of what I went for. And I said, you know what, let's just go with this as honestly as possible and see where it takes us.
Yeah, and when did you were in, well, actually, I know when it was because I was there. It was in July, you were officially endorsed as the party's candidate.
Right.
So what have you been doing since then? Take me inside, like, the campaign. What happens every day? And then how do you manage that with a full-time job?
Right. Well, it's definitely been a learning experience. Fortunately, like I said, I have 24-hour shifts on, 72 off. So, I have more than enough time to give into the campaign. But it's been a learning experience. It's been, going out, hitting doors. Really, it comes down to me just trying to talk to people, figure out what they want, because I have my own ideas, but I want to know what the majority of people's complaints and concerns are. I'm disappointed with the tax increases and the lack of development, but I'm just one person. So I wanted to go out and I wanted to talk to everybody, and that's my goal, is to hit almost every door in Derby and just to figure out, what people's concerns are.
And in terms of, on the national level, the country is polarized. It's more polarized than it's ever been. In my memory, I'm 45. I was a little kid in the early 70s, so I don't remember. But do you see any of that when you knock on a door? Do you knock on a door and somebody just asks you, "Oh, what's your party affiliation?" Democrat, and they shut the door on you? Do you experience any of that on the local level, or are you focusing on just people you
Well,
need
I
to
mean,
get out and vote for you. They're Democrats.
No. I think the thing is that it's a good question. It's a really good question. It comes down to I want to talk to the person who lives in Derby. It really comes down to what is our issue. Our issue is that our taxes are going up, our education's flatlined. We have a lack of development. I think people are very frustrated that we haven't seen development in decades. I think that if you create an open conversation with people and you just say, hey, listen, I'm a resident too, and I want to talk to you. What do you want to see changed? I think that really changes the conversation to a point where two residents can have a conversation, not a Democratic candidate and not a Republican candidate. It's just two people having an honest conversation of where they want to see the town go.
Okay, so I live in Derby too. I'm on Hawthorne Avenue. Where do you live in Derby? Not exact address, but just
Sure. No, it's I live on Derby Avenue. I live in one of the condos on Derby Avenue. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, so we're kind of close to each other. So you mentioned the tax increase a couple of times. So let's get to sort of your platform.
Sure.
What's the most important issue in Derby in your mind?
Right. First and foremost, like I said before, it's the increased taxes. I think unfortunately, we are predominantly a residential-based town. Our grand list doesn't have enough industry and commercial to help support a bigger pool, to help move ourselves forward. We were an industrial hub at one point, and now I think we're predominantly residential, and I think that that's not really the way a town should exist. It's not fair to our residents to have, such increased taxes and the idea of having, of flatlined amenities.
This podcast is sponsored by valleygivesback.org. Don't get spooked by planned giving. Name a Valley nonprofit in your estate plan and create a legacy that tells future generations what mattered to you. Making a gift that costs nothing during your lifetime is easy and revocable if things change. With a planned gift, you have the power to impact the Valley forever without affecting your current lifestyle. Your action will inspire others to make a difference in their own way. Remember the Valley. Ask your accountant, financial planner, or attorney about planned giving options. Plan now, give later, impact tomorrow. Learn more at valleygivesback.org. And for anybody who's, this past budget season, the tax board raised the mill rate 2.5 mils. Right. At the same time, didn't provide any new funding to the school district, which you
right,
mentioned, just in case anybody doesn't know the context of that. So how does a mayor, though, if elected mayor, because now we've been here for, the Valley Indy, what's left of it, has been here for 10 years. Right. And every 2 years there's an election, and every 2 years somebody says we're going to, grow our grand list, and yet it hasn't happened. Right. It seems like the issues, sometimes I sit here as a reporter and resident and just think, man, I don't know. The issues seem to be systemic. I'm not hopeless, but it seems overwhelming. So what would you do specifically to get to lower our taxes and to convince more companies to move to Derby and transfer that tax burden away from the residential homeowner to commercial, industrial, and non-residential use?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it has to be getting competent, qualified people in office. That is appointed positions, first and foremost. That's the only real power that a mayor would have. And then that's to create a transparent government, which is to say, I would very much like to post job positions of job requirements, whether it be for the economic developer or the financial director, and say, look, these are things that are needed for the job. These are qualifications. Why don't you apply? And then we can go and have a very transparent, so the people of Derby can see that we're going through in this process, and more first and foremost that we can actually get qualified, track-proven people to apply for these positions. And once they apply for these positions, we can have these interviews and really get a crack team in place and move forward with financial stability, to move forward with smart economic development, It really comes down to the idea of, you know what, I'm coming into this and I appreciate that I might not have all the answers, but the reality is that if we create a good team with a shared vision and an ambition and a talented workforce, we can definitely move forward and be a more competent city moving forward.
Now, one thing that I've heard touted over the years, and you mentioned like sort of economic development. Now it's a part-time position
Sure.
in town under the current administration. The finance director's position has been one that's it's been tumultuous over the years. So you're saying not political appointees, but would you have to pay these people more? Would you have to, and then how do you do that? Because one thing I've always heard in Derby is that, hey, we don't exactly pay as much. You can be a finance director and make much more money somewhere else. So,
right.
How do you
pay
for that? How do you compete with someone like these other towns?
Right. First and foremost,
presuming I'm right, because I'm just talking. I can't say what I just said is even correct, but just what I've heard.
Right. No, I think you're right in the sense that, look, we are a $6 million corporation, the city of Derby. We have, $300,000 worth of staff jobs. I don't think that we can argue and be penny wise and pound foolish here. So I would like to get the Board of Aldermen, I would like to get the tax board together, sit down with them day after election, and say, listen, we need a qualified professional staff. We cannot, cut off our nose to save our face. We need people who have a track record and experience in this and who can move forward with good ideas and good stop lines. I mean, the reality is that, this current administration have seen the books for 2 years. And the reality is that I would argue that they were incompetent. They have gone from a rainy day fund to millions of dollars of debt. And the reality is that we need people who are fiscally responsible. We need people who can have that experience to recognize inefficiencies, recognize any stopgaps that aren't happening, and to create those and to move forward to a more competent city forward. And that's the other thing too, is that, look, I understand that government is not total business, but if we were to get in a business relationship with developers, and we want to be in a good relationship with regional bodies and the state, we have to prove that we are financially capable and financially responsible to move forward. That's how relationships work, right? You have to say, look, you have to have trust in us and we have trust in you, and let's build a relationship forward.
And then in terms of, you had just said that there was some incompetency at work. But of course now, to play devil's advocate, I already received a letter at one point on this issue where Mayor Dziekan's campaign manager said, well, wait a second, because what we're sort of alluding to here is this financial blunder in the Derby budget, where the finance department and the tax board and everybody involved in double checking the numbers made a mistake and double counted Alliance District money that comes from the state or a state grant or a monetary amount equal to an Alliance District grant.
Right.
Was miscounted. They counted it twice, created a budget hole. But the Republicans say, well, that started under Mayor Dugato. She brought in the current finance director, and at the same time she had one of the administrative guys in the office do the budget, and that's where the mistake originated.
Right.
So is there enough blame to go around, or?
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like, I'm not here to pass blame. I am an outsider looking in, but I know how to read my own personal budget, and I know that if I make a error in my checking account, it's on me. And I understand that maybe, look, there's reports saying that some of these issues go back 10 plus years, but the reality is that you're responsible for your own books and your own budget. And to be honest with you, I think that we have to focus on issues in the present, and that present is that we need people that can read a budget and not make those mistakes, and to, instead of hiring more people to make those stopgaps, reach out to other towns, regions in the state to figure out. A perfect example is that, we don't necessarily have the proper stopgaps in order, to go and reach out to other towns in the other regions and say, okay, let's look at our books. How can we be more fiscally responsible? And that's, I think, where really talented individuals could come into in the forefront and, help us go forward as a more competent town.
And then sort of turning this statement into sort of an action plan, I presume what you're saying is for, like, say, finance director, you might have because I don't know what the job description is right now for finance director or economic development. You might set up formal, okay, like a company does. Here are the qualifications. You have, whatever undergraduate degree or master's degree. Would it be like that specific?
Right. Yeah, and that's
Gotcha.
exactly it. I mean, it's honestly, it's kind of running it like a business. It's having that the job requiem. It's having the past experience. We want to see people with not only a background but a proven track record, and we also want to make that transparent, whether it be on a website, city hall website, or what have you, to show that, look, we are looking for qualified people, and that's what we want. We want qualified people. We need hardworking, competent people that can actually help a shared vision of moving this town forward. First and foremost, get us financially and fiscally competent and capable, and then second most, we have to go from taskmasters, from getting financially sound, to being salesmen. And we can go out and we can get those grants. And we could talk to developers and small business owners and medium business owners, and create a rapport and a relationship. That's something I'm also very passionate about, is creating a city hall that is so transparent that current businesses, interested businesses, small and medium range, can come in and talk to us and say, how do we come into this town? How do we prosper? Because the reality is that when small business prospers, we prosper, and that's what I want to do. But first and foremost, we have to get a fiscally sound, fiscally capable city hall in order.
Okay, and so that was basically listed as your first issue there. And if we moved on to a second priority, because we've just talked about, you've essentially said toughen the job requirements for some of the positions in City Hall, including in the finance department. And then, I guess you had talked a bunch of, and I want to, you don't let me sort of steer you, but you had talked about the flat funding of education. I know, like, every town in the Valley struggles to fund schools. Right. It just gets more and more expensive. Not blaming superintendents or schools, but it is one of those things you hear about everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's, the mayor sort of puts together a budget sometimes, but it's really the tax board. Right. What do you think could be done differently to help out the school district? Well,
I think the thing is that we have to be forward with the idea of shared services. Regionalization sometimes has a dirty connotation to it, but I think the reality is that first and foremost, the education of our students is the most important thing. If we can create a shared service program or a regional program where we can provide a better service at a better savings to our residents, then so be it. And I think what we have to do is we have to have a proactive approach to that, and with other towns, and create that rapport.
Do you support the work that's going on right now of the Ansonia Derby Temporary School Regionalization Committee? Do you at least support that concept?
I absolutely support the concept. Like I said, first and foremost, we have to have those conversations. I want to hear more ideas on this nature. But first and foremost, like I said before, we have to make sure that the students, the Derby residents, are not sacrificing any services, and it's to the benefit of the taxpayer. So change for the sake of change can be very dangerous. It really comes down to the fact of, can we increase services, and can we stabilize our taxes through a process like that.
Okay, so what's your next priority then, if elected? What's the second biggest issue facing Derby?
Well, I definitely think that the economic development, first and foremost. I think that there is some amazing opportunities in this town. We have some areas that can develop. We need to be able to partner with our regional bodies and developers and state legislators to, get grants and laws passed to bring business in. I mean, this town used to be a catalyst for industry, and it used to be a booming enterprise. And we really didn't lose that much infrastructure. The point is that we have highways, we have 2 beautiful waterfronts, we have the opportunity, we have the green space. My biggest concern is that we don't want change for the sake of change. We want to have long-term responsible development that's going to increase the grand list as much as possible, and not just create that, oh, this is development, see how good we're doing. We owe it to ourselves to increase the grand list and increase as many amenities and bring jobs. And I say jobs, but I mean careers. Bring careers in, whether it be through advanced manufacturing or office positions. Make sure that we use the property, the square footage of this town to its greatest benefit.
I mean, one thing, isn't the current administration doing that to some extent with, say, the downtown redevelopment zone? There is a developer who has been talking for a year about putting in an application for mixed-use housing and retail in that redevelopment zone, but it seems you've got a scrapyard right there, which is a impediment to getting financing for anybody that wants to go down there. Aren't they doing that, or what would you do differently than the Dziekan administration is doing right now in terms of specifically that downtown redevelopment zone that's been sort of stagnant and delayed for?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's the city's responsibility to make sure that that land is prepped appropriately. We want to make sure that we can sell the idea of downtown Derby as best we can, so we can get the best ideas from the best developers to come in. And if that means a squeaky wheel,
let's hold it a little close.
Squeaky wheel mayor that gets the land prepped, so be it. Working, like I said before, working with the region, get those people together, working with the state legislator, getting grants, getting the best possible opportunity for our bang for our buck. And, I'm kind of concerned with the way the town is going because I see a bit of short-sightedness. I don't want, like I said before, I don't want change for the sake of change. I don't want a parking lot behind BJ's or a box store south of Main Street. We deserve better. We deserve development, but we deserve square footage, things that are not only going to increase the grand list and increase the property value, but give people the opportunities for the amenities they deserve, and also the opportunity to have solid careers. Because I kind of think about, what made Derby so great, in the turn of the century, right? All these romantic stories we talked about earlier. And I think it was that people had a love and a loyalty for this town because it provided them a job, it provided them a community, it provided them a home. And in turn, they were loyal to that. And they wanted to instill that loyalty to their family, their kin. And I think that that's some of the core basics we have to go back to, which is, provide an opportunity for careers here, provide an opportunity for, pleasable housing, and provide an opportunity for amenities where people want to go to our downtown and be proud of it, and to go to restaurants and entertainment and enjoy it and embrace it. That's really, it's a bit of a grand vision, but I think that's the grand vision that we need to have to move forward because, the world is changing and no man is an island and neither is no town an island. And that's why we kind of have to work together and kind of create a opportunity for Derby once again to to instill a sense of pride and investment within its own community. And the only way we can do that is by, providing affordable, I don't want to say affordable housing, but, taxes that are not driving people to the point of ruin, and property values that are investable, and amenities that make people want to live here.
One thing that sort of struck me covering the city over the last 10 years or so, well, when I came on board, the Republicans basically controlled City Hall, controlled the Board of Aldermen, and then the Democrats came back, took over City Hall, took over the Board of Aldermen, and then immediately started fighting with each other. The sort of most cantankerous meetings I attended of the Board of Aldermen were Democrats going at each other,
right?
Which was surprising that had happened,
right?
And then Dziekan comes in, the Republicans take over, and now, although I've missed probably the last 3 or 4 Board of Aldermen meetings, it's too hot in that building. You know what I mean? It's just like they got to get that fixed. But the level of sniping, at least publicly, sort of dissipated a lot. If I was a voter who's concerned, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Well, wait a second. If we get a Democrat in the mayor's office again, the Democrats will immediately start fighting with each other again, just like they did 2 to 3 years ago.
Oh, that's a very valid point. That's a good point. I personally think that one of the solutions for that, and something that my administration would do, is to create such transparency with development or fiscal responsibility, that we create such a transparency that we let the people of Derby know that change is coming. Here's opportunities, and this is what's going into the aldermanic, and this is going into the Board of Taxation. This is what's happening, and kind of the whole thing of the old ideology of let your senator know that you want this or that. Well, you know what? Let's do the same thing with the Board of Aldermen and the Board of Taxation. Let's make these ideas and these visions so transparent that we kind of make sure that the aldermen are on board with us. And I believe that we have a lot of good Board of Aldermen people and Board of Taxation people, that if we create a solid vision and move forward and say, listen, you're with us, we are with the vision and the betterment of the community, or you're not. I think that the truth is I might be an opportunist, but I think that a lot of people.
You mean optimist?
Yes, optimist. Excuse me. I misspoke.
Yeah.
No. You're right. I apologize. Yeah, no, it's.
I'm an opportunist.
Yeah,
that's
no.
Job.
So, but no, I think that most people who get involved in this want change for the better, and I think that if we have a unified, solid vision for that future, and we have a competent staff, we can move forward, and I think it'll be more unified than not.
How about in terms of any major structural changes you would do to say, you talked about a little Derby government, but in terms of charter change, one thing that's been bandied about, and that this administration tried to move forward, but the aldermen didn't want to do it, charter change in terms of making the mayor 2-year to 4 years, because it does seem in a lot of these towns where, especially Derby, where you have these generational issues, the Route 34 widening, the downtown development zone, it almost seems, maybe it's my opinion, like you get elected and then you have, either you're starting from scratch, we've kind of seen a little bit, or you just have to run for re-election again before you can have any real change. And then you look at other places like Shelton, Loretti's been mayor for 110 years now. There is something to be said for like stability. Seymour seems to be doing better. They have 2-year elections, but Miller's been there with the same. Yeah. So is there anything to be said for charter change and things like that?
Absolutely. To be honest with you, and that's half the reason why I'm trying to focus on a group of professionally minded people, whether it be,
That's it's a train coming. That's right. That's the ambiance of Ansonia
right.
we hear in the background.
Whether it be the economic developer or the finance director, I too think that, to be honest with you, I'm going to be totally transparent with you now. Perhaps the mayor should be full-time. I can't preach a full-time city hall and then, exist in a part-time position indefinitely. My point is that I love being a Bridgeport fireman, but equally as much I love being a Derby resident, and I want to have the amenities, and I want to have the opportunity to, grow up in a community I'm proud with. And I would be more open than anything to the opportunity to change the charter to a full-time position. Like I said, I'm just coming in here because I feel like there's an opportunity for change, and I want to help that. And once I believe that the wheels are set, I am more than happy to release the reins to someone who can handle this full time.
So, and now we're about, a month away from the election, which is just terrifying. And I'm not running, but I got to cover these things with one person. What happens now? What's your game plan for the next 30 days?
30
or so, because it's been kind of, from my perspective, and maybe it's because there's only one of me now, it's been a bit quiet. Usually we're or the Valley Indy would be hit with either letters to the editor or press releases, somebody be throwing a little mud at the other side, but it seems to be sort of progressing quietly compared to past but maybe I don't know, but I could be wrong. Or maybe everyone just goes to Facebook, nobody gives a
Well, I'm not.
I almost cursed on my own podcast about the local media. Right. So what's your game plan for the next 30 days?
The game plan is that, look, you're right. We haven't been, my biggest goal is getting on doors and talking to people. It's figuring out what they want, talking to them as human beings. We have some things going out in the near future. But first and foremost, I want to run on the idea of transparency. I want to run on the idea of a communication, and I truly believe it, and I truly mean it. And so I sometimes believe it's more important to receive as much information as give. So when I want grassroots change, I truly mean it, and I think that's what this is. This is true grassroots change.
Okay, Brian, those are all my questions. It's been about 39, 40 minutes or so. Is there anything that you wanted to add that I haven't asked you? I don't know if there's other parts of your platform or things that you wanted to hit. So now would be the time to.
I think that the reality is that we have a lot of work to do. People are frustrated. Taxes are up, development is flatlined, so is education. We need people with vision to come in. We need talented experience to come in. And we need to kind of increase that grand list. And if that means being a salesman, so be it. If that means being a taskmaster and getting qualified people in those jobs, so be it. But we just need to start looking with more passion and more vision in this town. And that's really what I'm running on.
All right. And Brian Coppolo, where can people go if they hear this podcast? Where can they go online or on the street to find out more about you?
Sure, yeah, no. And
the rest of the slate. I should note that there's an entire slate of fellow Democrats running.
Right. So you can go to brianforderby.com. That's Brian with an I for derby.com. That's our website, and I'm more than happy to pass on any information to the slate. We're all running together, and we need drastic change. So please leave an email message. There's contact information. There's donation resources that you can go to. So it would be great if people visited that. So.
And then, do you know where you'll be, like election night? Did the Democrats have a campaign headquarters?
Yeah, so our campaign headquarters is at 18 Olivia, which is the old dance studio right there.
Okay.
Right at the fork of Main Street. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's nice and easy for me. That's why I asked.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah.
And so that'll be up and running.
That'll be up and running. We'll be there. Yeah.
All right, Brian. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming by and talking about yourself and your candidacy. I know it's never easy to just sit down with a microphone.
I've never talked about myself this much in the history of ever. So yes. Right. Yeah.
So thank you for indulging me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Eugene. Thank you.
Take care.
their clothes. Owners' profits were always sky high. Changing market now threatens our lives. Post-literation, critical reading, dumbed down nation, signs of inbreeding, TV sucking ideas from our head, public discourse just about dead. We'll ride the dinosaur.